Hello, good people of YouTube. Mountbatten here. And today, well actually last night, when that resource coupon reset in the armory, I used it to acquire one of the... Actually, I don't think this is actually one of the... I think this is the most insane thing that Wargaming's released here in a minute. The Tier 10 Italian Steel Destroyer, the Barbiano. This is a ship that, when it was announced, it immediately drew some attention to itself because it's one of the most ridiculous ships Wargaming has put into the game in a minute. Oddly enough, this was an actual real design. The Italians were planning on doing this with one of their cruisers, but I don't believe it ever actually came to fruition because it's kind of, well, ridiculous. And no, your eyes do not deceive you. That is 16 main battery guns on the Barbiano. You get 16 of the 90mm sap guns, and yeah, it does things like how you might expect a ship with 16 main battery guns to do. You'll see that throughout the background footage, which what was really funny is that, not really funny, but kind of actually frustrating. If you were watching stream on Tuesday night, which we are on the summer streaming schedule, so I'm streaming on Tuesdays and Fridays now if you want to join us for that. I was trying to, get through some of the final dockyard missions to get all my steel for the dockyard, and just matchmaking decided that I wasn't allowed to do any of that, right? Like, I was trying to get the 12 citadels done, and I just kept getting matches where that wasn't happening. I was playing, the Shinano and then the Richtofen, trying to use the AP skip bombs on the Shinano, the AP rockets on the Richtofen to get those 12 citadel hits. And I kept getting, carriers that actually have good armor on the opposing side, as opposed to something like an American carrier that you can just kind of run up and just shoot it once with your AP rockets and get 12 citadels. But yeah, same thing happened this morning with the Barbiano. The Barbiano, it is an insane ship, don't get me wrong. Like, the 16 guns, the reload time of these 16 guns, it is stupid. And when you're in a spot to keep, left mouse pressed down, it looks so dumb, seeing all these sap shells going fly through the air. When you are either behind an island or using your exhaust smoke, and everything's hunky-dory in the world, yes, this thing has some absolutely absurd, insane DPM. However, getting there is a little bit different. So, the Barbiano, this is a cruiser, believe it or not, shoved into a destroyer. So, like it's not like the Elbing, where it's like, oh yeah, it's a very big destroyer. You could almost consider it to be a cruiser. This is straight up a light cruiser hull put into the destroyer slot. Now, that does two things for it. One, it does remove the citadel, because destroyers don't have citadels in World Warships. So that means that when you do eat AP, you're not going to get citadeled. Which, obviously, that's a huge boon to your existence. As well, you have almost 40,000 HP with the flag and with the commander skill on a destroyer, which is ludicrous amounts of HP to have on a destroyer. It makes the Khabarovsk blush, right, with how big and how much HP this ship has. So that's kind of insane. However, there are some drawbacks to that. First off, sure, you got a ton of HP and you are without a citadel, but you have an absolutely massive turning circle. This has the largest turning circle of any of the Tier 10 destroyers because it's a cruiser hull. And you don't really have stealth in the in destroyer terms, because you have an 8-kilometer detection range with the commander skill and with the module, which you are going to need. Now, since you are also a cruiser in a destroyer slot, you are a very, very large target. As you can see, the ship is not small. Sure, yes, you are a cruiser without a citadel, but you're also a massive target. You have an 8-kilometer detection range, and you can't turn, and you have a massive turning circle radius when you do try to turn. So keep in mind, the background footage you're seeing right now, I do have the rudder module on my Barbiano, and it still takes a second for this thing to start turning. It's also fairly sluggish. Once it gets going up to speed, it is quite fast with the engine boost going, which it does have. But getting to top speed, it takes it a second to do that. So keep that in mind too. But anyway, so that's kind of the rest of the Barbiano, right? Like, you do have some insane characteristics about the ship, but then it's oddly fairly balanced out. Like with the main battery guns. Yes, you have 16 sap guns, 90mm sap, And you do have the funny button that allows you to just push F, and now you pin 34 millimeters of armor. Well, the thing is, that's it. That is everything. That's your only source of damage on the ship. You don't have torpedoes, you can't even swap on over to HE, so every ounce of damage you get is coming from those SAP guns. Now, obviously, with the reload time of the Barbiano, which is like 3.7 second space, once you put a build onto it, you get down to like a little bit under 3 seconds. Yeah, that is absurd to have that level of DPM with a ship. But that's it. That's all you got going for you. And the maximum range base is 12 kilometers. Again, with a build, if you don't take the range mod, 13.7 kilometers is where you're going to peter out with the build that I'm running, at least, which is fairly decent. But at those ranges, you're really having to lead the target ship by quite a lot. And obviously, with the flight time of the shells, that can be a little hard to do. What's really funny is that you'll be about 4 salvos in before the first set of shells start to land on the enemy ship. So it's kind of hard to figure out, okay, when did I fire that, that current volley of shells that are impacting the ship? Was that like 1 or 2 or 3 3 salvos ago, or so it takes definitely some getting used to consistently land these shells at that range. So there is that. But again, that's everything. That's everything about the ship. It's all into the guns, no other source of damage. So you don't get any fire damage, you don't get any flooding damage, no torpedo damage, nothing. It's all in the main battery guns. And that's, again, the whole identity of the Barbiano. So now you do have some tools to definitely help you achieve that goal, right? Of murdering things with your main battery guns. You get the Italian exhaust smoke, and you get an engine boost. With the engine boost is going, this ship is very much fast. You get up and over 40 knots, again, depending upon what build you're running on the Barbiano, and that does certainly help solve some of your acceleration problems if you're not running the acceleration mod, which I really wouldn't recommend. I would just say take the rudder mod and call it a day, because this is very much when you don't have your smoke up and running, which of course you won't have all the time. This is very much destroyer that's very much in the vein of like the Khabarovsk and the Kleber and the Marceau, a longer range open water gunboat destroyer. It's a second line ship. You really shouldn't be diving the camps by yourself, because yes, one-on-one, you are going to murder whatever destroyer it is that you run across. Unless it's another Barbiano, you are going to kill it if you can aim. However, many a time, destroyers are not without friends. And you're the crazy ship that has absurd levels of DPM, everyone wants you dead. So if you run across a destroyer and it's a 1v1, sure, you're going to murder him. But if he even has like another cruiser, a battleship buddy that has the common sense to shoot the thing that's currently, ripping his destroyer apart, you're going to have a very bad time. And that 40,000 HP, which yes, it's a lot of HP, but again, it's a big target. So most battleship players, especially by tier 10 standards, can very much hit you very easily from range with their main battery guns. So you don't want to really be diving in there early game trying to, knife fight other destroyers. Again, it's a second line destroyer. Play it like a Khabarovsk, play it like a Marceau from range. Use your exhaust smoke to stay dark when you're running and gunning with your main battery guns. What I did, I'm not sure if this is really how it's supposed to be played, I would use the smoke to, rain fire down upon my enemies without being spotted, and then when the smoke ran out, I would hit the engine boost, and now use the engine boost, because the engine boost lasts for like 2 minutes and change. The engine boost would very much make you a more difficult to hit target than your normal top speed, and you have the improved acceleration and all that, so you can do a little bit of throttle juking and all that jazz. And that seemed to work out fairly well for me. But unfortunately, many of the rounds that I played, the game went, oh, you're playing the longer range gunboat destroyer. Here's a Cyclone game. Oh, that was cool. You want another Cyclone game? Oh, hey, guess what the third game is? It's a Cyclone game. I don't know. I feel like the matchmaker just knows what I'm trying to do and decides that, what, we're going to make this as hard as possible for him today. Or the match was a blowout game. But you can definitely see, in the background matches, I don't really have my guns going for that long in many of them. But my God, the damage you can stack in once you, bide your time, wait a little bit till the teams whittle down a bit. Then you can find those ships that are off by themselves, and you can absolutely rip them apart with these SAP guns. So you have to play it smart. That's what I like about the Barbiano. You can't just go in and just win a fight early on. You have to, play it smart, bide your time, be a little bit restrained in the beginning and such, and then you can go crazy at the end once you have those ships down into, those 1v1 encounters. Now, of course, it does very much mean that you need a team that can do things. If you do have a team that's not providing spotting, or the destroyers are all going to one side, or the team's going on to one side, or they're all hiding behind a rock, like so often happens nowadays, it's going to be a little bit tougher to make things happen in the Barbiano, because you don't have torpedoes to fall back on, you don't have HE to fall back on, or anything like that. It's really all about the main battery guns. So outside of your smoke, you have to, be exposed when you're doing damage. And you might be saying, well, yeah, it's got the exhaust smoke, though. Well, guess what? When you have the exhaust smoke up, you can't spot. Doesn't get a catapult fight or anything like that either, so you're by yourself when it comes to spotting when your team is deciding to not really be too close to the action and sitting in the back like we see so often at higher tier games now. So you are kind of stuck, running and gunning in the open water, which sure, it can do it for a little bit, but I wouldn't recommend doing it for the entirety of the game, right? That's why it does have the exhaust smoke. When the exhaust smoke is up, smoke screens work both ways, so that was some of the frustration I had while playing the Barbiano for this review. So, yeah. But when things go well, you get a halfway decent team where there's, more than a few ships on your flank that know what's up. This ship is amazing, especially if you have experience in gunboat destroyers for sure. Now, of course, it brings us to the price of the Barbiano. It is a whopping 30,000 steel, which you do have the steel coupon. It just came off a cooldown last night, so that will get it for you a little bit cheaper, 25% off, so there is that. It is not a destroyer that's going to be overly competitive outside of randoms, maybe brawls, and maybe tier 10 ranked, depending upon what the formatting is, but probably not so much ranked. Why? Because this is a light cruiser in a destroyer slot. It can't do destroyer things, like even less so than like the Khabarovsk and the Elbing, because those guys still have torpedoes, right? You don't have torpedoes. You don't have the ability to do a lot of what a destroyer usually does. Like I said, this is very much a second line destroyer, so it's not going to be a destroyer that's going to be showing up in clan battles or ranked very often, if at all. However, for a random battleship, for a ship that's just a lot of fun and a lot of goofiness to look at when you have, your main battery guns constantly going, sure, it very much is great fun for that. It's a great random battles farmer. Outside of that, I don't really see, much draw for this thing to be brought into anything competitive. So if you want a goofy, fun, insane random battleship that when things go right, you can absolutely just paint the world with your sap shells, yeah, it's a pretty good pickup for that. But considering it's a steel ship, there are much better steel ships in my mind to pick up first before the Barbiano. Burgon, Stalingrad, Shikishima, and comparable. Those are, in my opinion, funner and better steel ships. But yeah, I mean, like, if you like what you see on screen and you like, maybe like Colbert, but smaller and more Italian, yeah, it's definitely a good ship for that. But one that, again, I don't think will really be showing up in competitive or anything like that. But yeah, if you want a fun, goofy ship, look no further than the Barbiano. Again, it's a steel ship though, so it's going to take a while to save up enough steel to get it, so there's that. This would have been a really good, like, research bureau ship in my mind. This kind of screams research bureau, these more what-if style ships. I don't know why it went into steel instead, but I guess, wargaming has their reasons. What's also really goofy too is that at the maximum range you can get all 16 guns on target. I forgot to mention that when we talking about the guns. So there is that. That's a lot of sap going down range at once, as I'm sure you've seen in the background footage here. Oh yeah, too, if you have Sansonetti, oh yeah, Sansonetti is a beautiful thing on this ship, because you have to get 100 shell hits to get his extension for consumables, and that's so easy to do in the Barbiano. You get a kill, it extends the range out to 14 kilometers and change, and then if you get Confederate, you get that buff to the reload time of the main battery guns to get them down even faster, which is just ridiculous at that point. The F button, I don't really use it that much. I thought I was going to use it a lot more than I did, because it does get you pinning 34 millimeters of armor versus the 27 millimeters of armor that the 90 millimeter sap guns do pin. But in most cases with battleships, you're going to be pinning their superstructure anyway, because most battleships, the deck around the superstructure is thicker than 34 millimeters. So just take the reload, over the slightly increased penetration. Now, if you can shoot their bow, their stern, yeah, do use the F button to get that 34 millimeter pin going with the main battery guns, but beyond that, just stick with the 27. The rate of fire more than makes up for it, and you can bully most cruisers with that level of pin 2 at tier 10. So, it's something that you won't be using too much, in my opinion, but it's nice that it does get it. I think it's kind of funny that Wargaming is saying, what if we just give it the ability to have IFHE in a button without any of the downsides of IFHE? I mean, I guess it's SAP anyway, so yeah, can't take IFHE in the first place. So, but yeah, there's that. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is the Barbiano. Let me know what you guys think about her in the comments down below. If you picked her up, have you played her, have you played against her? What do you think of her? Hope you guys enjoy. Have a wonderful Thursday, wonderful rest of your week. Hope to catch you guys in the next one.